Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Bozzy here. And I'm back with some more Love, Money, and Rock and Roll. And last time, everybody knew that my neighbor, Ryanosuke-san, and my childhood friend's father, as he is, was a Japanese intelligence something, apparently. My ex even showed up, broke into my house in the morning, made me breakfast, that bitch, and then told me that she found out because her mom, which is an diplomat, most likely just an American spy, right? Yeah, that she got told and shit. And it's funny enough, only when I found out myself, everyone came. Maybe I'm getting, I don't know, I'm getting watched more than we probably think already. So, let's go on, figure out what's gonna happen now. And what the fuck's up with this shit, man? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy's Law. Ah, yeah, I've seen that show. It's from the creators of Phineas and Ferb, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think that is in my circumstances the wording that was important, but I still wouldn't say that something just went wrong that morning. That would be quite an understatement. I was woken up by shouting in the kitchen. I jumped up and dashed to the source of the noise with only my underpants on. Yeah, I knew it. Himitsu, of course. Catherine and Himitsu were standing in the middle of the room and going at each other over at max volume. You could at least put on some clothes on. Petya smirked. Ah, yeah, sorry. I replied automatically and returned to my bedroom. Nico-kun! Himitsu's angry voice reached me. I quickly put my shirt and pants and returned to the battlefield. Nico-kun, what is she doing here? Early in the morning, too? Nothing, really. You don't have to make excuses to her. I'll show you excuses. Oh, no. Are they fighting? Oh, I'm holding her back so she don't fucking... Oh, damn. Look at her eyes. She looks furious. I get that. Himitsu was about to throw herself at Catherine, and I had to grab her by the arms. It's your own fault. Nico-kun, let me go. I will when you calm down. How can I calm down when she... Himitsu was choking on her own fury, and it was scaring me. I couldn't remember ever seeing her like this. You smiling, bitch? She kept trying to break free, baring her teeth at Catherine like an animal. How does it feel to be such an unfeeling piece of shit, huh? No idea. How does it? Oh my god. Take what you haven't earned. What you don't deserve. Sunshine, that's enough. Don't call me that. Himitsu choked on her anger. Nico-kun, tell me just one thing. Did you do fuck? What if we did? I'm not talking to you. No, we didn't. My voice was trembling and I couldn't understand why. After all, I was telling the truth. Catherine kept smirking, my uncertainty seeming to entertain her even more. Nico-kun, stop lying! I'm not, I finally declared with confidence. But even if nothing happened between Catherine and me, was Himitsu going to believe it? And what was I supposed to do? I decided I wasn't going to spy on her father, and she had stated clearly yesterday that he didn't want to see Himitsu around me. Nico-kun, I came here just for you, even after my dad warned me not to talk to you anymore. Exactly. You couldn't just throw me out of her life, and so would keep sinking ever deeper into my problems, and jeopardize herself more and more. I hoped that we would talk and make up, that you would understand. She stopped fighting me, but still was breathing heavily. But as soon as I left you alone, you immediately ran to her. That's what all your promises and words of love are worth. Words of love? Oh, words of love? Catherine looked as if she were in an audience at a comedy show. Has he gotten better at phrasing those in the past couple of years, I wonder? Shut up, bitch! It's all because of you! If you were never in our lives! But I am, in his life. And moreover, I never lied to Nick. Yeah. Mitchell burst into deep, dull sobs, and I finally released her. Now overwhelmed by emotion, she might do something stupid and harm not only me but also herself. For example, she could tell her father something she shouldn't. Oh, it would be better if we didn't communicate any longer. Mitsu, you need to calm down. Go home, I said quietly. What? Me, huh? What about her? Go home, Himitsu, I repeated as quietly as before. Nico-kun. He pleaded, but I just kept staring at the floor without saying a word. But that's how it is. He burst into tears and ran away. Bruh. I feel so bad now. I feel so bad. If you need my opinion, I'd say you did the right thing. How exactly did she come in if I locked all the doors from inside at night? I opened the door for her, Catherine replied calmly. A lump of burning resentment swelled in my throat. So you set the whole thing up, I said through clenched teeth. Even if I did, what does it change? She just wanted to fuck with Himitsu, I see. Okay, what the fuck? Catherine frowned and gave me a serious look. Oh, come on. Before you unleash your righteous wrath, let me tell you something about your innocence. At the time I found it hard to tell you everything right away, but I decided to ask for her advice first. Catherine pursed her lips and looked away. If I only knew she was such a... whatever. She pulled herself together and continued. Mom had told me that we had to leave, and of course I was glad, even happy, except it was you. My heart started to beat faster. I just didn't have a choice, understand? Even if I wanted to stay, I simply needed to tell you everything. But you know, I'm not good at this type of stuff. So I had wanted to discuss it with her, the person who knows you best. And what did I get in return? Well, what? Don't act like you don't understand. You started this. Be so kind to see it to the end. That's what she was waiting for. If I hadn't left at that time, you would have found another excuse. So all of this is your revenge. Katya turned to me abruptly and made me feel guilty with a single look. She doesn't deserve the honor. I just wanted to show you her real face. I hadn't expected such frankness from Catherine, especially after such a long time. I did see it when she broke all my fucking plates. Bruh, I get it. But at the same time, I still couldn't figure out what Himitsu had said to her. I understand that you don't have the best relationship with her. Maybe things weren't great back then either, but you had to have expected this kind of reaction. Just because you're also a girl and all of this on a much more sophisticated level than me. You really don't understand. Apparently not. Yeah, of course. What did I even expect? I don't know what you're getting at, but it doesn't excuse you in the slightest. Our relationship is worse than ever anyway. I should have known. I grasped my head and thrashed back and forth. Leave, please. Now you're kicking me out too? Just leave. I didn't raise my voice, but it was enough for Catherine. She slowly walked to the hall and closed the front door behind her demonstratively slowly. I don't know what it feels like being on a desert island, but I think in a way it may be easier than being a social outcast. At least the islander knows that people ignore him. Not for their own reasons, but because there just isn't anyone around for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. He feels more hungry, the person in a prison cell or the person forced to observe a luxurious banquet. I don't think I was really upset with Catherine. Surprised, disappointed, but not upset. Fortunately, something like that was to be expected from her. And by doing this, she was pushing the love for that Katya further and further out of my heart. And I was just too tired. However, her words still rang clear in my head. What exactly had happened between them back then? Catherine wouldn't get mad over nothing, and if she hated Himitsu that much, was Kachi even capable of genuine hatred? What had to have happened to evoke such a strong, baleful emotion in her? I just couldn't imagine Himitsu doing something worthy of it. While thinking While thinking about all this, I didn't even notice how I got to school by the time the second class started. In reality, I had absolutely no reason to be here, but it wasn't any worse than any other place. And this wasn't even about Irina. Did her threats really matter after my talk with Himitsu's father? And what really did matter? What did I have left in my life? Naturally, Catherine wasn't at school. I wouldn't be surprised if Himitsu skipped classes as well. I was sitting and looking out the window, unplugged from the rest of the world. The strong autumn wind was mercilessly shaking the trees in the schoolyard, but with the last bits of strength they resisted, not giving up their red and yellow foliage to it. It wouldn't last long, however. By nature's will, they would become naked and helpless before the first frost and the coming cold. But the wind didn't need those old leaves. Blowing is its destiny. It can't exist otherwise. Perhaps Catherine's destiny was to wreck my life. Michael approached me during a break. God, again? It was hard to guess from his facial expression what he was going to talk about. But I preliminarily tensed. Wait. Let's just not go over the same thing again. I just thought you had some time to think. His persistence was enviable. But now in particular, this behavior was frankly inappropriate, at least not here for everyone to see. Was he deliberately trying to make me mad? I've already thought it through, and told you everything. We discussed it only a couple of days ago. Yes, but I still haven't gotten a clear answer from you. Clear answer? I smirked and flung my hand in the air. The usual level of noise in the classroom became noticeably lower. You want a piece of advice? I'll give you one for free today. Run away from her without looking back, otherwise she'll ruin your life same as she ruined mine. I was stepping on the same rake again. Now not only with Michael listening to me, but the entire class. Except I couldn't care less. Shall I take that as an affirmative answer? Are we doing math here? Affirmative, negative? What's the fucking difference? You know what? If you need her so much, take her. I said and quickly walked out of the classroom. The nastiest thing was, and I scolded myself for it without end, that I couldn't even really get mad at Catherine. Even though I had every right to. Any normal person would. Good afternoon, Senpai. Someone from a junior grade greeted me politely. How did he know me, and why did he talk to me at all? Didn't everyone in the school know that Nikolai Anakin is a dangerous sociopath? I passed by Himitsu's classroom and looked inside for a moment, but there was no one behind her desk. Fair enough. Afraid of running into Saya-chan, I quickly ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time, and as could be expected found myself on the roof. Somebody was sitting on a bench, and I was about to think that it was Kagume, but it wasn't her. The girl was holding back her long blonde hair as it fluttered in the wind like a ship's sail in the Alexander Grin novel. Hey, that's the guy that picked the girl that spilled juice on me and was a musician. I don't remember her name right now. Ellie. Yeah, Ellie, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I recognized Ellie. But even though I couldn't see her face, I thought she seemed sad, looking into the distance at a massive city from the school's roof like you'd look into the horizon of the ocean expecting the return of a beloved. I wondered if she had a boyfriend. I drove these foolish thoughts away and approached the uncrowned queen of the school. Hi, I hope I'm not intruding. Oh fuck, what was her voice? A long time ago. Damn, I just killed myself. I looked at me surprised. She raised her head and looked at me surprised. Hoodlum-kun! Kobayashi-san? I put a semblance of sarcastic smirk on my face. Actually, my name is Nick.
I see.
I don't know, that's probably a bad voice for her.
Ew, this is a voice now.
Ellie looked upset and was behaving far less energetically than usual. Sorry if I'm prying. Did something happen?
Nothing important. Just some family problems.
Ah, I understand. Actually, no, I don't. I added immediately and sat down next to her, keeping the distance allowed by decency. I'm alone. I live alone.
Is that so?
He clearly wasn't in the mood for a chat. By the way, I was at your concert. You played really well. Finally, Ellie brightened up and cast a glance in my direction.
Yeah, right. I saw you. You were staring at me the entire concert. You wouldn't let me play.
I was there by accident. I just swung by the club on occasion.
And what a lucky coincidence that we were playing there at that time.
Yes, it was. Just a coincidence. I'll have you know, it happens. Not everything in the world revolves around you and your family. The last part was clearly too much, and Ellie smiled sadly and looked away.
Yeah, sure, you're right. It's just, you know...
She started, but sighed heavily and went silent.
No, you don't.
Explain then.
Here we go again. Sorry, but I really don't feel like it. How many times can you explain the same thing? Would talking really change anything?
What an interesting observation. I was constantly boiling in a cauldron filled with painful introspections and regular fights with Mitsu and Catherine. Well, you have your music to distract you.
Yeah, for now.
I think you should keep doing it. You clearly have a talent. I was staring at the vapor trail left by a plane and added wistfully. You know, I even envy you in a sense. Not because of all the school queen and heiress of the Kobayashi Empire stuff, but because you have something of your own. Something that you do well, and something you want to pursue. A calling, I guess. A life goal. I'm not really good at saying this stuff. Sorry. Finally, I looked at Ellie. She lowered her head and blushed a bit.
Everything sounds so easy if I just listen to you.
Well, I don't know if it's easy or not. I'm just judging your situation from the perspective of a lay person, so to say, who has nothing like that in his life.
Maybe that's for the better.
She jumped off the bench, shaking her head, golden hair flying side to side and faint smell of perfume reaching my nose. It took a considerable effort to hide my embarrassment from this girl.
Well, okay, hoodlum. Nick-kun. See you later.
Bye. I responded timidly and remained in my place. I didn't know whether Kobayashi-san had a real crown, but once a long time ago I had given one to a little girl and neighbor of mine. I couldn't get used to the fact that the school year in Japan starts in spring. After graduating from the primary school at the embassy, I went to a normal secondary school with normal children. Maybe a bit of an elite one. From childhood, Mitsu wanted to be in the same class as me, but her poor health hadn't allowed that. But we still ended up in the same school. He was just a grade lower. He then skipped spring and summer semesters due to illness and managed to go to school with me only in autumn. It must have been the end of September as well.
Oh, they are younger there. They look weird, but I guess. Yeah, that's fine. Me-chan. Himisu was pulling at my sleeve.
I asked you not to call me that anymore, especially at school, I said sternly.
Okay.
She replied sadly and lowered her head. We're adults now, at least I am.
So what should I call you then?
I don't know. I thought for a second. This question was an important one for a child. I have a classmate, Kyosuke. I'll introduce you. He calls me Nick.
Nico.
Mitsu uttered in a Japanese style. No way, that sounds like a name of a mafia boss. Don Nico. He laughed. You come to me with a request, but you don't ask with respect. You don't even think to use Keiko. Mitsu laughed even harder. Keiko? I don't know what that means.
Nico-tono.
Well, no need to be that formal. I even grew a bit embarrassed.
Then.
He stressed of heavy thinking found reflection on her childish face.
Nico-kun?
She suggested timidly. I paused. You do for now.
Well, then you should also call me something like something like that.
Like what?
Korimitsu-sama.
Listen and obey, my mistress Uemitsu-sama. We were approaching the school, and more I noticed Himitsu's little shoulders tremble. He was clearly very nervous, but was trying not to show it. A yellow leaf fell at my feet, then another one and another one. I started to pick them up.
Nico-kun,
She said slowly, as if she was trying to taste in this new word.
what are you doing?
You'll see soon. When I gathered enough leaf, I took a finishing line out of my bag and began to string the leaves on it. You can find anything in a little rascal's bag, and sometimes things weirder than a fishing line. When I finished, the resulting composition mostly resembled a washing line with colorful rags hung on it. Every princess should have a crown. I barely managed to mount this little something on Himitsu's head. The leaf stubbornly refused to stand vertically and followed the laws of physics, were falling, draping over her. That might be a thumbnail. The leaf... Oh. In the end, Himitsu resembled a bald old man with hair only remaining on the temples, nape, and also forehead. It's pretty cute, though.
Oh, it's so cute.
He agreed with me. Himitsu sang, opened her bag, and took a little mirror out of it. Are you sure you want to see this? I said in a theoretically serious voice and slowly took a few steps aside. She looked at herself in the mirror attentively and smiled. Smiled so cutely that for a moment it seemed that the crown made of leaves shone with all the colors of a golden autumn. I got embarrassed. And not because I was seeing a beautiful girl, which had happened to me before, but because that girl suddenly turned out to be Himitsu. Alright, let's go. I habitually took her by the hand and quickly walked to the school. Nice.
Nico-kun.
He called to me in more confident voice. And if someone asks, we'll say that you're my sister. Got it? My juvenile maximalism was still there, after all.
Nico-kun.
And we have different surnames because you were adopted. Or I was, whatever. And that's why we don't look alike.
Nico-kun.
But that's only if someone asks, otherwise we don't know each other at all. And you're a grade lower than me, if you ask me. I don't understand all this division at all.
Nii-chan.
Himitsu said loudly at last. What? He pointedly looked at our latched hands. Ah, yeah. I instantly released her hand and felt blood rush to my face. It's just a habit that we should ditch too.
You're taking this so seriously.
He giggled. It's because it's vital to start off on the right foot.
Understood.
Himitsu said solemnly and pouted. And take this mess off your head already. She carefully removed the crown and put it in her bag. You could just throw it away, I muttered.
Why? It'll be a reminder that I'm a princess and you're my prince.
Are you starting this again? I pinched her side hard.
Ouch!
Nuka. Kyosuke's merry greeting reached us from afar. Alright, here it comes. That crown must have long dried out and turned to dust, although I was sure that Himitsu kept it somewhere in a wardrobe for a long time after. It can sometimes seem that entire segments of lives, hours, days, years are erased from memory, but if you really try, you can always recall them. I sat on the roof for about an hour, reminiscing. Or perhaps that's merely how it seemed to me, because the hour hand was stubbornly approaching 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My stomach growled and I returned to sinful earth, now with more than just my thoughts. I feel like I've seen him around somewhere. Or, I don't know. I don't work here. It was too late to go to the canteen, and unfortunately my funds were quite limited, so I returned to the classroom, quickly packed up my bag, and ignoring Kyosuke left school. On the way home, I was thinking about Maya and Himitsu's childhood. She probably wasn't a real fairy tale princess to me. It felt more like being Peter Pan and her Wendy. Wendy returned to the real world, and I forever remained in Neverland, where children don't grow up. Lost and thought I was almost run over by a car. Dad! Nice with something to drink. The old empty house welcomed me coldly, as usual, with its silence broken only by the creaks of floorboards, dust dancing in the sunlight that reached the kitchen from the garden, and by now familiar atmosphere of loneliness. I didn't expect Himitsu to come today. Didn't hope for her tasty cooking, but I was starving, having not had lunch or even breakfast. Luckily, there was a lot left after Catherine's visit. The bartender would call the thing I cooked Gulya stew, or Gulyan chowder, as the abundance of soy sauce made the dish pretty watery. Not that I cared, at least it was edible. After washing the dishes, I turned the TV on and pointlessly stared at the screen. All of my thoughts were focused on Himitsu. I seemed to have forgotten Catherine completely, and when I did remember her, I felt disgust. I didn't know what she blamed Himitsu for, but Himitsu had the full right to blame her for the situation we found ourselves in. I recalled more and more memories of our childhood, and the events that happened relatively recently. I replayed these memories in my mind, fondly studying each of them for a good while, then going to the next. I guess that was how projectionists rotated the handles of their projectors, carefully trying not to damage the film. But then the movies would come to an end and give way to harsh reality. In the silence of the house, I could clearly hear a car drive into Himitsu's yard. Ryunosuke-san seemed to have come home early. Actually, it was none of my business, not anymore. I felt a lump in my throat. Too much connected us for a relationship to be completely broken in a single moment. Even for a good reason. And it wasn't only the fact that we grew up together and that Himitsu loved me, not only the serious matters. The little things that made up our daily life were equally important. Even the fights and grievances, the tears and sorrow, the diseases and hardships. It was important that we had gone through all that together, hand in hand, and I could never imagine that one day Himitsu wouldn't be around. For her, it was love, a self-explanatory feeling. I'd always considered it friendship, but the past few weeks had turned it all upside down. I heard voices coming from outside. I couldn't understand anything, but it was clearly Ryunosuke-san talking loudly, as if he were having an argument with someone. Then I heard the shrieking wheels of a leaving car. I couldn't remember Himitsu's mother at all, but I hoped that Himitsu inherited her personality and not her father's. It was weird, but the whole day I had barely thought about Ryunosuke-san's threat. After all, I was the one who screwed up everything. Of course Catherine had help, but it was in my power not to allow her to enter my house, or at least kick her out in the evening and not let her stay overnight. Suddenly I felt painfully lonely. There are several kinds of loneliness, and the one I was experiencing was the nastiest. It was a loneliness I brought on myself. Of course I could call Kyosuke, but I was a bit ashamed, since I've been ignoring him a lot these days. And I couldn't even think of calling Michael. Who else did I have left? Himitsu? Catherine? No thanks, I've already called her enough to make me want to vomit. I jumped off the chair and started walking around the kitchen in circles. The evening was slowly coming and I desperately wanted for this day to end. Just physically, I couldn't stand being alone with my thoughts, so I washed some clothes, vacuumed the entire house, wiped the dust off the wardrobes, went through boxes, cleaned the kitchen and took a shower. Why didn't you just play some video games? I finished almost at midnight and exhausted, fell straight in bed. I felt a bit dizzy and my entire body was taken by pleasant fatigue. How did Himitsu even handle this on a daily basis? She should become an athlete. I recalled Himitsu's slim body and got noticeably aroused. My brain was pierced by a sudden thought. I wanted her. I wanted her as a woman. Not only sexually, like I had always wanted Catherine, but entirely and undividedly. I didn't want to give her to anybody or let her go anywhere. Such a pity that it was too late. I rolled over and covered my head with a pillow. You don't know what you got until you lose it. Was that the saying? Even though I had spent almost my entire life in Japan, I still felt like a Russian, with all the pros and cons. I guess I never adapted fully. But then, why did I always feel so good with Himitsu? He was much more Japanese than Russian. And at the same time, I was struggling with Catherine and Michael, people with an inherently European mentality. Stop. You didn't just say that two Americans, Catherine, American, Michael, American, had European mentalities. That's dumb. I don't agree with that. When I talk to Americans, they have a far different mentality than the average European. Or maybe I'm just... maybe more than just the average Dane. Because if you do go in Europe, like a French guy and a Danish guy, completely different mentalities. A Italian guy and a Greek guy, completely different. A Bulgarian guy and a Norwegian guy, a Finnish guy, I guess, different mentalities. Like, it's not one nation. Europe isn't a nation. It's a fucking continent with several different nations. You wouldn't say Afghanistan and Japan had same fucking mentalities either, because it's not. There's a big difference. So, I don't agree with you there, Nikolai. I am actually quite on the contrary. I think that's a really stupid thing to say. She's half Russian, you're Russian. She probably has more Russian in her and a closer mentality than Catherine or Michael would ever have. It was most likely about the upbringing, not the place of origin. Yeah, exactly. Applied dialectics at 1 in the morning. That was so typical of me. No, seriously, I would have enrolled in this philosophical faculty of the University of Tokyo if they accepted me. And if I had the money. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't even think Americans have the same mentality. Like a Californian, a Texan, different mentalities. New York, Ohio, different mentalities. I'm pretty sure about that. So, yeah. I think like you can never do it on such a big scale. Big nations like probably in Germany. It's probably also depending on where in Germany. East Germany, West Germany, or even further down like Brandenburg or Bavaria. Probably completely different mentalities. Not completely, but different. But the closer it gets, you know. I think you know what I mean. I'll stop. I felt so pathetic that it even made me laugh. After the laugh came the tears. I couldn't even remember the last time I cried. And after that, heavy as if delirious oblivion. Loading. The 25th of September, 1987. I was woken up by the officious ring of my alarm clock, but I immediately made the difficult decision to keep sleeping and turned it off with a single accurate hit. Irina's recommendation regarding maintaining my normal lifestyle didn't bother me anymore, and it was silly to expect Himitsu to come. Yesterday's distress returned right away, making my head feel as if it was swelling up like the inner tube of an old tire. I woke up again at 11 o'clock, and as luck would have it, I felt rested and refreshed. I was always extremely annoyed by this kind of contrast between mental and physical conditions. You want to hang yourself, but can't run a marathon. After forcing myself to take a shower, I walked to the kitchen. It turned out that Catherine and I hadn't bought as much food as I thought. It was more or less just enough for breakfast. Over and over, I kept thinking about how Himitsu wouldn't come anymore. He wouldn't bring food or make a delicious dinner. Then it was time, at 18 years old, to learn how to take care of myself. I didn't know if I had really reconciled myself with the loss of Himitsu. But I needed to move on somehow. Besides, it would be great if I could buy some new plates to replace the ones she had broken. The sunshine was friendly but already autumn-appropriate cold, which didn't stop the people on the street from smiling and looking wonderfully happy. Here was a child with his mom laughing and holding a balloon string in his little fist. If I had 100 of those, I would have hung myself with them and then flown over Tokyo for the sake of the world's entertainment. Then you feel bad. When you feel bad, others always seem to be doing much better than you. Half an hour later, I reached the office of my bank to withdraw some money. Sometimes I wish to have been born early and participated in the student strikes in the 60s to cast off the chains of capitalism and righteous anger together with my comrades. But then, almost every month, I would come here, and with my head lowered, wait for a friendly clerk in a window to give me the money I needed to live. That's how the noble intentions of yet another young guy were broken against the harsh cliffs of reality. So he's born in 69. Today, however, it seemed like the entire world was against me. The nameless clerk in his grey suit with a theatrically concerned expression informed me that my bank account had been blocked. I argued with him for a good half an hour, raised my voice and even shouted it was pointless. I was never given a reason why. It even took the help of the guards to get me out of the bank. What the fuck? I have no money. I'm fucked. I sat down on the bench outside and tried to catch my breath. One thing was clear. It was no coincidence or accident. Coincidences like this simply doesn't exist. The KGB? Kobayashi Corporation? Japanese intelligence? Himitsu's father? When it rains it pours. Or to be more precise, when it seems that the things can't get worse, life would always surprise you. I didn't know what to do now. I didn't even want to think about it. Surprisingly, I had never been troubled by the thought of what I would do when I ran out of money. Or to be exact, I had only thought about it in an abstract philosophical context. Like, I would go to work, maybe become a shop assistant or get another job where they don't require a degree. However, I never believed that it would really happen. During this year and a half, my monthly visits to the bank seemed completely natural and unquestionable to me. Even though any normal person in my place would first ask themselves where the money was coming from. My father's bank account. Maybe, but this explanation only raised new questions. Perhaps I was just afraid to think about it and learn the truth, or break my once established lifestyle. Maybe not the best one, limping with both legs, but without any turmoil or disturbances. And with Himitsu. I was sitting there, dazed for an hour, but eventually began to come to my senses. It was time to call Ichinose again. He had told me that I shouldn't trouble him for anything insignificant. But my life wasn't insignificant, and I couldn't survive in this world of victorious capitalism and Japanese economic miracle without money. I don't think Ichinose could help you with that. I don't think you should call Ichinose for that. I basically sprinted into my house and grabbed the receiver and dialed the number from my memory with shaking hands. The dial tone seemed to continue forever, my heart managing to beat multiple times every second. No reply. I called again and again, but with no success. Alright, I needed to calm down. Maybe they just went to do some shopping. Yeah, I guess they did. After all, they need to eat something. I looked at the clock. It was 1 o'clock. A good time to buy some groceries. Groceries? God damn it! When I had nothing to eat myself, I furiously kicked the nightstand. I wanted to hit my phone, but instantly realized that if I broke it, I would have no money to buy a new one. My situation was getting more and more serious. Why didn't they just kill me? It would be easier for everyone, including me, I guess. Besides, Maslow was right with his hierarchy. My stomach growled, and I realized if I didn't do something, then the breakfast made of the remains of Catherine's shopping would become my last meal for today. But who could I ask for advice or help? I dialed the Genosis nephew's number again, and again nobody responded. I recalled an old film in which a policeman was interrogating a suspect. A tiny, poorly lit room, a little table in the middle of it, and a dim lamp with a white shade drowning in clouds of cigarette smoke. The detective, with his sleeves rolled, leaned up to the table and asked the suspect, "How did you end up here?" The film was probably made in the 1950s. The actors' profiles seemed to be carved out of stone. Big noses, wide, strong-willed foreheads, eyebrows pulled together, and plastered, swept back hair. I imagined myself on the other end of the table. "How did you end up here, Nikolai?" Out of all the people I knew, Ryunosuke-san seemed to resemble that detective the most. Just like last night, I was seized by a fit of nervous laughter. Okay, now things definitely couldn't get worse. My brain started to work feverishly. Kakume was the only person who could know more about my situation. I ran out of my house and hurried to school, hoping that I couldn't make it. On my way to school, I was desperately trying to recall how many classes we were supposed to have today, but the lack of oxygen was making blood pulsate in my head, and it was hard to focus. Someone might find a catty irony in the fact that my last hope was Kakume. Not Stanley Kubrick's kind of irony, but rather Alfred Hitchcock's painful sarcasm. Finally, I saw the school around the corner and stopped completely exhausted. Groups of students were walking down the street, and I recognized a few classmates, which means the classes were all over already. With one last push, I virtually flew through the gates and came face to face with Kakume. At least I was lucky with something. You. I was wheezing desperately, sucking air through my mouth.
Have you gone totally mad?
Kakume hissed, took me by the arm and pulled me aside. "You're exactly the person I need," finally I articulated. "We need to talk."
Well, not here.
"Why not?"
Nothing, let's go.
She abruptly jerked her head in the direction of the school gates and gave me a harsh look. Iwamura walked fast, and I was barely managing to keep up, exhausted from the long run. Sometime later, we found ourselves in a trade district.
Let's go to a cafe.
She asked seemingly casually. Yeah, why not? I wanted to agree, but immediately interrupted myself. I can't really, I got no money. That's part of my problem. Kakume looked at me closely as if studying me, testing my reactions to stimuli like a lab rat. You seem a bit different today.
Different?
Well, more polite, I guess. He was clearly about to get angry, but smiled instead.
Looks like you really have something to say.
We stopped by an electronics shop. Just recently, I wanted to buy a new TV, but I'd been too stingy to. What had happened to that stinginess now when I was choked with hunger? It was doubly unpleasant to realize that the things normally available to me just yesterday had become a luxury.
Well, I'm listening. I hope you aren't going to ask me to lend you some money.
No. Well, definitely not you, I thought to myself. Have you found out anything new about our case?
Our case?
Kakume's loud laughter sounded somewhat unnatural.
Since when do we have any case in common?
You know what I'm talking about.
Maybe, but I've already solved my problem, and without your help, do not.
Solved? How? I froze, dumbfounded.
Doesn't matter. It's none of your business and never was.
It seemed that there was a fight happening inside of her. Whether she should have told me more. But in the end, Kakume looked at me again, and her eyes became cold and focused. Try to understand. I'm in a desperate situation. It's getting worse by the day.
What do I have to do with it? How have you helped? How much have you told me?
I've told you everything I know. Although, of course, that was a lie. And it made me feel even worse if I had treated Kakume differently in the past, who knows?
You don't even believe what you're saying. I can't see it in your eyes.
Oh, so you are a mind reader now? I snapped at her.
Well, nothing to talk about then.
She sighed and turned away, preparing to leave. Wait! I said loudly and grabbed her by the hand. Kakume started to shake.
Don't touch me.
She said quietly, but didn't try to break free. Sorry, I just have nobody else to turn to, it's true.
I believe that.
She replied quietly with her back turned to me.
But it doesn't change anything. I couldn't help you even if I wanted to.
My arms fell impotently, and this time I didn't stop her. I was slowly walking home, and when passing the school building, I saw Michael. The light of hope once again lit up in the darkness of my life. Michael! He stopped and looked at me emotionlessly. Hi! I greeted him a bit too enthusiastically, coming closer. Michael merely nodded slightly. You're a bit late today. There was something I need to discuss with the teachers. I see. Do you want to talk about some? Yeah, you see, I got a problem. My bank transaction got delayed and I was lying shamelessly. Could you lend me some money? It's just until Monday and then I'm going to handle it. Nothing serious, just a little hitch, so to say. Michael gave a somewhat supercilious look. Don't you think you're asking the wrong person? Don't you think you're asking the wrong person? I don't need much. 10,000 yen would do. I would love to see this further when I needed something from you. Catherine. Her again. Michael clearly had a crush on her, and I'd been more or less telling him to fuck off at the smallest hint of conversation on the topic. Yeah, I'm sorry, that wasn't really... I mean, I understand how I acted. Wait, how I acted wasn't good, but it's really extreme situation, bro. Michael seemed to even winch at my bro. Nick. He sighed eventually and closed his eyes wearily. I will not lend you money. I just need... And I will not apologize for that. I hope you understand why. My stomach seemed to drop, and I felt as if I grew smaller. Okay, do you know if Kyosuke is still at school? He left for the others around an hour ago. Which meant he was home by now. Although it was equally possible he could be at the arcades or at manga store. Well, don't hold a grudge. See you. I walked past him and waved my hands without looking back. Ah, look at the cat! Funny. Naturally, I was pissed at Michael. Yeah, don't you think he's pissed at you, bro? Kagome with all her problems was one thing. After all, her father had been kidnapped. But Michael and 10,000 yen? It was barely a sum for him. While for me, it would be enough to live another week. Again, with his stupid principle and straightforwardness. Americans, bro. I couldn't understand that at all. First, he needed to kiss off in regards to Catherine. A green light, nothing more than that. And now, what was that? Revenge? And it was too banal and rude for a person like him. Maybe there was an educational element in all this. But that was even worse. I mean, you never showed interest. You never really were there. You never really did anything besides something for yourself. You never wanted to talk about the problems. I kind of get why he's like that. You never give him a reason to understand your situation or even show that you're interested in anything else than them being there for you. So I kind of guess where he's coming from, but I'm not sure. I wanted to teach me a lesson? Freak. I clenched my fists so hard that they became blue and ground my teeth. And immediately I felt disgusted with myself. I was ready to break the face of one of my few friends for a lousy 10,000 yen. To hell with Catherine and everything that had happened recently. It's really what I've become. On my own without any help from others. It was that period in Tokyo's weather when the season really started to stand apart from summer. Just a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 o'clock would have been the middle of the afternoon. Now I could feel the evening approach. My only salvation was Kyosuke, so I reluctantly walked to his place. My Rutown friend lived really close to our school. I would have been surprised if that hadn't been the case. I couldn't imagine Kyosuke jostling in a crowded train carriage every day. His family lived in a relatively elite apartment complex by local standards. His mother was a housewife, while his father was some kind of government official. They weren't the richest family at our school and definitely no match for the Kobayashi clan. But that was one of the things I liked about Kyosuke. 10 minutes later I was sitting in his room with a cup of tea courteously offered by his mom. As it often happens, she was setting me as an example. He was setting me as an example to Kyosuke, sincerely believing that I was more hardworking and generally better socially adapted. What a naive woman. Kyosuke himself naturally always reacted painfully to those comparisons, but never blamed me for them. His room looked like the lair of true otaku posters on the walls, manga and videotapes on the shelves. Despite the fact that his mother cleaned here regularly, nothing seemed to be in order.
Hi there. What are we going to do?
It seemed that Kyosuke was genuinely delighted to see me. I have something to discuss, but to ask him for money like that without any preamble, it didn't work with Michael. I've been really busy recently, can't even find the time to go to school.
Yeah, I don't see you there often these days.
He said seriously and continued in a lighter tone.
You'll never believe what Kurosaki did.
That seemed to be the name of the guy whose face I'd punched in the school gate. It seemed to have happened so long ago, as if in another life. What? I asked out of politeness.
He came to school totally drunk.
Even I'd never done that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I wonder what the principal told him.
They say he might get expelled.
Well, he probably deserves it.
You don't even know how Kurosaki is, right?
Wait, how? Who? Ah. Kyosuke squinted slightly at me and leaned on the flimsy tables with his whole massive body. I know, of course I do. However, I still couldn't stand looking him in the eye and looked away.
Okay, Nick, tell me what's up. You're a shitty lie anyway.
I've got a problem with my bank, just a little thing. The end of the month, they're flat out. You know, they have some sort of glitch in their system, so I couldn't withdraw money from my account. Judging by Kyosuke's look, I could see that he understood nothing. Anyway, can you lend me some money? I summed it up in a more serious tone.
This isn't the best time, Nick. It's the end of the month for me too. I'll get my pocket money next week, and I still wanted to buy some tankobons.
What is tankobons? Let me see. Tankobons.
Japanese das ist. Why did it come with the German one? Tankobon is a Japanese for a book.
Okay, so it's a kind of a one-off, I guess. Kyosuke, damn it, I have nothing to eat and you're still talking about your manga?
What? It's that bad?
He looked genuinely concerned. Yes.
Tell me what happened.
No.
But when it comes to asking for money,
You won't lend me any? I interrupted him rudely.
not about money, Nick. Don't you understand?
I hesitated for some time. Was it a good idea to tell him the truth? I wasn't worried about Kyosuke's safety, but was generally concerned that he wouldn't be able to keep his mouth shut. I'm in some trouble.
That's what you need friends for.
He gave me a too wide smile, which even made me shudder a bit. No histrionics? No histrionics now. We're not in an anime.
Unfortunately.
To a certain extent, I was positive that Kyosuke would give me money even if he didn't learn the entire truth. At the same time, I came to a clear realization that I had pushed away everyone I could, and in a lot of senses put myself in this situation. Do you have anything stronger? I sighed with an unhappy smirk, fidgeting the cup of tea in my hand would start. I hoped you noticed that my life has been pretty fucked up lately. Well, it turned out that my parents' death wasn't an accident. I got contacted by KGB agents and later by Japanese intelligence. I prudently decided not to tell him about Himitsu's father. It's all somehow related to my father's work. I don't know much about it myself. Kyosuke was listening to me with his mouth open. Suddenly his face brightened as if he finally realized something important. The corners of his mouth went up and he squinted heavily.
Are you and Michael trying to play a trick on me? Did you think that I would buy that so easily? No way.
God damn it, Kyosuke. You don't joke about this stuff. I smashed my fist down on the table, and the tea got spilled all over the place and covered the magazines that lay on it. Sorry, just be a bit more serious. I took the napkins and started to wipe the table.
So what are you going to do now?
It seemed that he finally figured out that I was indeed not doing well. Well, for starters, I could eat something.
I can help with that.
He replied confidently. Kyosuke's mom, as retowned as him, made food for the slaughter, so to say. One of her standard portions would be would do a normal person for several days. Even normally, everything was incredibly delicious, but now I was eating like Mayakovsky's Ichiosaurus or something. Her food, infallibly fried, always came with incredible amounts of oil and fat, spices, salts, and herbs. Kyosuke himself was eating so actively he was sweating. After we finished its celebration of hedonism, we returned to his room. I was saying in a half whisper, I couldn't even breathe normally. If I lived here, I'd end up having a heart attack.
Leave off.
Alright, back to our talk. His face instantly turned serious.
Are you in danger?
I don't know. I guess so. The question is, what kind of danger? I didn't want to scare Kyosuke too much, given he was impressionable enough already. I don't think they want to kill me, otherwise I'd be long dead, but ruining my life is another matter.
Maybe you could go to the police.
What do you think, provided that Japanese intelligence is involved?
Oh yeah, right.
He bit his lip and started to think. So what about...
Oh yeah.
Kyosuke began to fuss about and picked up a wallet from the table.
I don't have much here, that's all.
He gave me a thin bundle. I started to count.
If you want, I could ask more from my mom. I could come up with an excuse.
It was almost 30,000 yen. Alright, no need. That should do for now. And thank you.
Not at all. If I can help you with anything else, just let me know.
Definitely.
And Nick, don't disappear.
He looked me in the eye. I'll do my best. I smiled weakly and stood up. Kyosuke was shaking my hand firmly for quite some time, bidding farewell. You could at least have asked him out for the arcade. I'd probably never been so meticulously at choosing groceries, guided mainly by their price. What is more, I had hardly ever even looked at the prices before. It came as a surprise to me that there was a certain point in buying paper plates. They were cheap, and I at least didn't have to wash them. But seriously speaking, the minimum amount of groceries necessary for my survival didn't turn out to be as expensive as I expected. Of course, in different circumstances, I wouldn't take a good pile of sweets, chips, or even steak meat. It was getting colder and colder in Tokyo. Even if the temperatures on the thermometer wasn't changing much yet, my gut, with some kind of internal thermometer of its own, warned me of the inevitable coming of the cold. I was always surprised by sort of symmetry of the seasons, autumn and spring. September much resembles May, while November is close to March. Although there are also many differences in their mood. Spring is the time of new hope, while autumn is this sober period for wise thinking about life. Or useless introspection in my case. Loaded with food, bags, and household supplies, I approached my house when the sun was already setting in the west, painting the entire horizon red. Not wet. Somebody was sitting on the stairs. Someone wearing a school uniform. I instantly grew hopeful. However, it turned out to be just Saya-chan. Hi there, I said in Russian.
Huh?
She raised her head and looked at me with a bewilderment. It seemed she had fallen asleep.
You're back, finally.
Saya quickly regained her senses.
Would you like to explain yourself?
So what am I guilty of this time?
As if you don't know yourself.
I put the bags on the ground and let out a tense sigh. I don't. And here I thought we'd started to get along at least a little bit after the karaoke.
Mitchell, what happened? Why did you change schools and leave Tokyo in the middle of the school year?
What the fuck? What? Is that a joke? I smiled idiotically and Saya continued with even more pressure in her voice.
You want to tell me you don't know? Figures. She got so fed up of you that she just ran away.
What do you mean, left her houses? I turned around and looked across the road. The lights were off and it seemed that nobody was home. Instantly recalled yesterday's noise, Ryunosuke-san's shouts, and the squeal of the tires of a departing car. I slowly sat down on the stairs next to Saya. Tell me everything.
Otilde told us today that Himitsu transferred to another school. He didn't want to say which one, but I'm the class representative and managed to find out that this school isn't in Tokyo.
Where then? Saya said the name of the prefecture. Yeah, right, Himitsu had been taken to her grandma. which meant that Ryunosuke-san didn't know about me eavesdropping on him a week ago. Otherwise, he would have chosen a different place.
Wait, so you really didn't know?
Saya asked seriously. Imagine that. Himitsu has things in her life that have nothing to do with me for a while now.
What could have happened that made her leave without even telling me?
You really think you mean so much in her life?
We're best friends.
Saya protested. Then you should realize that she must have had a very good reason.
But why then?
I didn't reply, looking in the direction where, as far as I imagined, her grandmother's village was. With the backdrop of the sunset, the buildings in the distance looked absolutely dark, the yellow sheen of the windows like stigmata, piercing them in places. Tokyo was reminding me of the ghost city from the novel I Am Legend.
Hey!
The insurmountable influence of a third party. I replied vaguely and regretted that I hadn't bought anything to drink at the store.
Here you go again, acting like it has nothing to do with you at all.
How am I supposed to act, huh? I lost my temper, but immediately fell silent, realizing that I couldn't explain anything to Saya without disclosing all the details. If you have something to say it to her father. It wasn't her decision.
Wasn't her decision?
Saya asked with surprise, and that made me even angrier. Of course it wasn't. You say you know her, or at least you believe so. Do you really believe she could just pack up and run away because it looks like running away, don't you think?
Yes, running from you.
What do you think I could have done to make her drop everything and run away? Just think about it. It's nonsense. If she could just leave that easily because of me, she could have done it long ago. And don't look at me like that. I know, I am not an idiot.
So then what happened?
Whatever happened, happened, and there's no way of fixing it now.
Are you sure? Maybe now is the best time.
I turned to Saya. She seemed to be talking to herself.
If all you're saying, if it's true, then now is the best. It's time to prove us your sincerity.
This isn't a knightly tournament.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you finally got the chance to get rid of that constant attention from Himitsu and be together with that foreign girl or whoever you want to be with.
Himitsu was
giving you so much trouble with all her breakfast, dinners, bentos, constant lectures, and care for you.
Enough. Her words were painfully jabbing at my heart.
What, feeling uncomfortable? Why? That's what you've been trying to achieve with everything you've done.
Suddenly she stood up and looked me up and down with pity in her eyes.
Would you say I'm wrong?
I was quiet, unable to raise my eyes.
I've nothing else to say.
I left and I kept sitting on the stairs, lonely and broken. Truth is still the truth, even if it's not said aloud. But God spare me, sometimes it's better not to remember it at all. I decided not to cook dinner. Dropped the groceries in the kitchen without even putting them in the fridge and fell into my bed. That conversation with Saya finished me off. Her words echoed in my head with dull pain. I really had been constantly irritated by Himitsu's meddling, and deep inside, I probably didn't want her to stand in the way of my relationship with Catherine. Well now, she really wasn't. There was no Catherine, no relationship, no Himitsu. Not in my life. And it wasn't even important who initiated Himitsu's move. Her father or her after catching Catherine at my place. Probably for the first time in my life, I didn't care about the reasons anymore. What did they matter anyway? Himitsu had always been around as a loyal friend, as a loving sister and caring mother, as a patient wife, and a grandma always ready to spoil. And now she was gone. Had I ever thought about what Himitsu felt once in my life? Yes, occasionally I was ashamed of my behavior and attitude towards her. But that's not the same thing. How does it feel to spend years next to the person you love and realize that for him, you are something like a combination of a kitchen unit, a washing machine, and vacuum cleaner, an old grumbling radio gramophone? I was a bastard not only because I was taking Himitsu's love for granted, but first and foremost because I couldn't give a final answer either to her or to myself. Now it seemed to me that she would have understood if I had said that I loved Catherine and couldn't continue playing family any longer. After all, she had been doing all this only when the hope that I would reciprocate had still been alive somewhere deep in her heart. If I had killed that hope, No matter how cruel it would have been to her in the moment, Himitsu could have moved on. And in the end, she could have broken free of the vicious cycle. And then, who knows, possibly found happiness. But that was what I should have done a long time ago. And now, as I realized it more and more clearly, my only desire was to bring her back. I'd only spent a couple of days without Himitsu, but I only spent a couple of days with the realization that I was lonely, irreparable, and forever. And I finally understood so much. They say that a fool doesn't learn even from his own mistakes. I always thought that pain was the best stimulus and teacher, and feeling of danger, the fear of the unknown, the dread of losing something meaningful in our modern society. They replaced instinct refined over millions of years, instinct necessary for survival. I lost Himitsu, and it made me feel like a caveman who left his lair in the morning to find his fruit grove destroyed by a hurricane. Had he thought just yesterday that his grove was perhaps his only source of food? Had he cherished it, taken care of it, watered it? Such thoughts never even crossed his mind. Bruh! That's probably Himitsu's father that was behind that. Oh my god. Oh, fuck. Behind that bank account thing. Spend it in half a day. In a half dream, my memory was again and again returning to the moments we were happy. I remembered how we met, her first day at middle school, the first time we were making a snowman. 10 years fell away like beads from a broken jar. Himitsu most likely remembered more than I. After all, remembering details is a typical feminine trait. For her, every day that had been a part of the endless grey background to me bloomed with different colors stroke after stroke. Washing clothes, cleaning, breakfast, lunch, dinner, into everything she did for the person she loved, she was putting a tiny bit of herself. Things that were empty and pointless from my perspective, the perspective of a person who was only thinking about his own place in the world due to lacking any other worries, were filled with meaning only she could understand. The greater meaning, not the monolithic one, like the philosophical verity, but rather comprised of an endless amount of tiny daily duties, just like atoms are comprised of particles, molecules are comprised of atoms, and that warm winter sweater Himitsu had knitted for me for New Year's is a compromise of her love. My love for Catherine was a manifestation of the greater feeling and an ideal image of romanticism beyond any boundaries of the condition. That love looked at the necessity to buy groceries, cook, wash dishes, and iron shirts with condescension. It was a self-centered concept, a neutron star accumulating a tremendous amount of energy inside. It didn't and couldn't understand daily routines and worries. It despised thoughts of the practical, the earthly. I sunk so deep into the greater feeling that I completely lost my ground, reality, and was just floundering in the air, unable to stand on my own 2 feet. Moreover, that love was doing pretty perfectly well without a real object. After all, I loved the Katya from my memories, not the Catherine who once again entered my life 3 weeks ago. That love was disgusted by the very thought that its existence was based on a bodiless phantom, an ideal image. Its purpose wasn't the real, but the process, and its fruits was suffering. That's how a writer loves his unfinished book, how a painter loves an incomplete painting, and loves and hates at the same time, and after completing it, putting down the final dot and making the last brush stroke, lets it go, all covered in his or her blood and sweat. The piece will live in its own life through the perception of each spectator, while the creator will remember it how it was in the process of creation, a grain of an idea in its conception, an empty canvas at the beginning. They will remember all the pain and suffering that were required to let it go in the end, and trust other people with it. Some can only make one great masterpiece in a lifetime. For me, that masterpiece was still my love for Catherine, and I was stubbornly refusing to notice the base of my colossus was, with ever greater effort and necessity, supported and strengthened by the quiet, obedient, and eternally love for Himitsu. 2 seconds. Perhaps it was time to complete my masterpiece. Not to forget, no. Something like that is unforgettable, but to let it go, retaining the best memories of it inside, and finally return to the sinful earth with its little problems, to find myself again, to once again meet the one who has always been around, and move on together, choosing one of the many paths forward. I cried, but those were not tears of sorrow or desperation. I was crying because of a happiness, and a new feeling was flowing down from my eyes, as if my heart, beating 100 times faster, was purging overheated, cooling fluid. Perhaps this love wouldn't be described in novels, become a muse for poets, or find its honorable place in textbooks dedicated to philosophy. But for me, it was no less important than the love I had just let go, because without it, I would have never realized what really mattered to me in life. Damn. Holy shit. 26th of September 1987. That felt like it could have been a ending, and a bad one. But it's continuing. I'm hoping I can fix this shit. So, but I want to say thanks for watching this episode. Remember to like, subscribe, watch my other episodes on the channel. Leave a comment telling me how much you love this game and holy shit, tell me what your thoughts are, please. I want to hear it. And remember, I'll see you next time. Bye.